Why so much controversy? Why so many enemies? Why so much jealousy? And why is it so popular? What is it about the Brown family? Today, I will uncover that mystery. So let's get started. In the early 2010s, the Brown family emerged as America's most prominent symbol of polygamous living. Kody Brown, a charismatic salesman raised in a fundamentalist Mormon tradition, had spiritually married Mary in 1990, Janelle in 1993, and Christine in 1994. Their household brimmed with energy, as children arrived one after another, creating a vibrant, chaotic home filled with laughter and shared dreams. By 2010, when TLC's Sister Wives premiered, Kody courted and spiritually married a fourth wife, Robyn, who brought 3 children from her previous marriage into the fold. To viewers, the Browns represented an idealized plural family, 1 husband, 4 wives, and eventually 18 children, navigating faith, love, and controversy with apparent unity. They openly discussed their beliefs, faced legal scrutiny over polygamy laws in Utah, and relocated multiple times, from Utah to Las Vegas and later to Flagstaff, Arizona, in pursuit of freedom and a permanent home. The show captured big family gatherings, heartfelt confessions, and the promise of building a legacy on their newly purchased Coyote Pass land. In those early seasons, smiles dominated the screen, and the world watched as this unconventional family seemed to thrive against the odds, becoming a cultural phenomenon and the face of modern polygamy in America. Robyn's entry into the family in 2010 brought a shift that no one could have fully anticipated. With her 3 children from a previous marriage, she joined as the 4th wife, spiritually uniting with Kody in a ceremony that promised to expand their already large household. The early days on Sister Wives portrayed excitement and adjustment, new dynamics, shared responsibilities, and the hope of even greater harmony. To outsiders, it seemed like the perfect addition to an already unconventional but functional plural marriage. Yet beneath the surface, subtle changes began to take root. Kody, in a practical decision to adopt Robyn's children, legally divorced Mary, the first wife who had stood by him since 1990, and married Robyn on paper. It was meant to be a legal formality, with their spiritual bonds remaining intact. But for Mary, Janelle, and Christine, it carried an emotional weight. Mary, in particular, felt the sting of being sidelined, her role diminished in a way that words could not fully mend. As seasons progressed, Kody's attention gravitated more visibly toward Robyn. He spent increasing time with her, defending her needs and desires with a fervor that the original 3 wives had rarely experienced in recent years. Dates, decisions about the home, even subtle affections, all seemed to tilt in her favor. The other wives noticed quieter dinners, less shared laughter, and a growing sense of imbalance. Resentment simmered quietly. Christine felt the neglect most acutely in her role as the family's emotional heartbeat, while Janelle focused on practicality and Mary grappled with long-standing insecurities. The family's relocations from Utah to Las Vegas and then to Flagstaff, Arizona in 2018 were sold as fresh starts, opportunities to build on their dreamed-of Coyote Pass land. Purchased for over $800,000, the sprawling property was envisioned as a compound with homes for each wife and space for their growing children. But progress stalled amid financial strains, differing visions, and the deepening divides. What was meant to symbolize unity became a reminder of unfulfilled promises. By the mid-2010s, the cracks were undeniable. Favoritism bred jealousy, neglect fostered doubt, and the once solid foundation of their plural life began to erode. The cameras captured smiles and confessions, but off-screen, the original wives whispered of feeling like outsiders in their own family. Robyn's arrival had promised expansion. Instead, it marked the quiet beginning of the end. Christine Brown, the 3rd wife and the one who had always been the emotional core of the family, had devoted more than 2 decades to the plural marriage. As the mother of 6 children, she had poured endless energy into nurturing the household, mediating conflicts, and upholding the ideals of their faith. Yet, over time, the warmth she once felt from Kody eroded into a chilling distance. She began to sense that, in his eyes, she had become little more than an associate, a functional part of the family machine rather than a cherished partner deserving of romance and priority. The imbalances that started with Robyn's arrival grew more pronounced during the COVID-19 pandemic. Kody's stringent rules, designed to protect the family but enforced unevenly, created deep rifts. Visits to certain households were restricted, children felt alienated, and Christine watched as the bonds she had worked so hard to maintain frayed further. The isolation amplified her growing realization. She deserved more than neglect and emotional scarcity. By late 2021, after 27 years of spiritual marriage, Christine reached her breaking point. In November, she announced her decision to leave Kody, a choice that sent shockwaves through the family. She relocated to Utah, closer to extended family and a sense of independence she had long craved. Though the departure was heartbreaking, leaving behind a life she had built from youth, it was also liberating. Christine chose self-respect over endurance in a relationship that no longer nourished her soul. Her courage became a catalyst, inspiring reflection among the other wives and exposing the fragility of the plural structure. In the years that followed, Christine flourished in ways she had never imagined possible, proving that solitude, when chosen freely, could be far preferable to a partnership devoid of true connection. Her awakening marked not just the end of her marriage, but the unmistakable turning point in the Brown family's unraveling. Christine's bold departure in 2021 rippled through the family like a stone dropped into still water, unsettling the fragile equilibrium that had held for decades. Her courage illuminated the cracks for the others, prompting Janelle to confront her own growing dissatisfaction. By December 2022, Janelle announced her separation from Kody, seeking the independence she had long prioritized in her practical approach to life. Mary, whose bond with Kody had been strained for years, followed suit in January 2023, formally ending their 32-year spiritual marriage and embracing a future unburdened by emotional limbo. The original three wives, Mary, Janelle, and Christine, drew closer in the aftermath, their friendship deepening into a supportive sisterhood forged from shared experiences and mutual healing. They navigated new beginnings together, finding strength in one another while distancing themselves from the past. Meanwhile, the family's 18 children grappled with the fallout. Many grew increasingly estranged from Kody, scarred by years of perceived favoritism toward Robyn's children and the rigid COVID-19 protocols that had severed ties during critical times. The pain compounded tragically in March 2024 when Janelle and Kody's son, Robert Garrison Brown, took his own life at the age of 25. His death sent shockwaves through the family, amplifying unresolved grief and highlighting the deep wounds left by fractured relationships. Garrison's loss became a somber reminder of the human cost of the family's unraveling, leaving parents, siblings, and ex-wives to mourn a vibrant young man whose struggles had gone unseen amid the chaos. As the plural structure crumbled, the Browns confronted not only emotional divides but lingering practical entanglements, setting the stage for further reckoning in the years ahead. Christine's exit had not merely ended one marriage. It had ignited a chain reaction, reshaping the family into separate paths of resilience and reflection. The sprawling 14-acre property in Flagstaff, Arizona, known to fans as Coyote Pass, had long represented the Browns' grand vision for the future. Purchased in 2018 for $820,000, it was intended as the site for a family compound, individual homes for each wife, surrounded by the natural beauty of ponderosa pines and sweeping views. Kody dreamed of a unified legacy where his large family could gather, grow, and thrive away from the scrutiny they had faced in previous homes. But as the years passed, Coyote Pass became less a promise and more a painful emblem of stagnation and discord. Plans to build repeatedly stalled. Disputes over design, from separate houses to a single massive dwelling, went unresolved. Financial pressures mounted, with the family struggling to pay off the loan amid other expenses, including Kody and Robyn's purchase of a substantial home in 2019. Accusations surfaced on the show. Janelle and Mary voiced fears that the property's ownership was unevenly tilted in Kody and Robyn's favor, breeding mistrust and threats of legal action. By early 2025, tensions peaked. Ownership records showed imbalances, prompting a redistribution in March where parcels were transferred to ensure a more equitable split among Kody, Robyn, Janelle, and Mary. Christine, having sold her share back for a nominal amount years earlier, was no longer entangled. Discussions turned urgently to sale, with Janelle expressing a need for closure to fully move forward. In April 2025, the chapter finally closed. The 4 parcels sold for a combined $1.5 million, yielding a $680,000 profit. After an even 4-way division, each received approximately $375,000. The transaction brought financial relief but underscored the irreparable fractures. What was meant to bind the family together had, in the end, highlighted how far apart they had grown. Kody Pass, once a beacon of hope, faded into memory, a poignant reminder that some dreams, no matter how earnestly held, are not meant to endure. With the chains of her past finally broken, Christine Brown stepped boldly into a world of her own making. Settling in Utah, surrounded by familiar landscapes and supportive extended family, she began to rediscover joy in the simplest things: quiet mornings, undivided attention, and the freedom to choose her own path. In early 2023, while navigating the uncharted waters of online dating, she connected with David Woolley, a widowed father whose warmth and steadiness felt like a breath of fresh air after years of emotional scarcity. Their bond formed swiftly and deeply. David, who had known profound loss with the death of his first wife years earlier, recognized in Christine a vibrant spirit ready for genuine partnership. They went public with their romance in February 2023, engaged just months later in April, and married in a dreamy outdoor ceremony in Moab, Utah on October 7, 2023. Surrounded by loved ones, Christine walked down the aisle radiating happiness, declaring it a fairy tale come true, the kind of devoted, monogamous love she had long craved. By January 2026, over 2 years into their marriage, Christine, now proudly Christine Brown Woolley, and David continued to thrive. They celebrated milestones with adventures, family gatherings, and public affirmations of their unbreakable connection, often shutting down fleeting rumors of trouble with displays of affection and contentment. In September 2025, Christine released her deeply personal memoir, Sister Wife, a memoir of faith, family, and finding freedom, a New York Times bestseller that chronicled her upbringing in polygamy, her decades with Kody, and the courageous leap to independence. The book offered raw insights into her journey, resonating with readers seeking stories of resilience and self-discovery. In this new chapter, Christine embodied renewal. David treated her with the priority and adoration she deserved, their home filled with laughter and shared dreams. No longer defined by a plural past, she embraced monogamy fully, proving that true happiness often awaits beyond the familiar, and that leaving behind what no longer serves the soul can open the door to profound, lasting fulfillment. Janelle Brown, ever the practical and resilient one, channeled her energy into reinvention after separating from Kody in 2022. Relocating to North Carolina to be closer to her daughter Maddie and her family, she invested in a shared dream: Tata Farms, a sprawling 156-acre property dedicated to flower farming, community gatherings, and serene retreats. Alongside Maddie and son-in-law Caleb, Janelle poured her resources and vision into the land, clearing spaces for gardens, planning a home with wide porches, and nurturing the wild beauty of the pines and wildlife. The farm became more than a business. It was a sanctuary, a place to build beauty from the ground up after years of stalled dreams on Kody Pass. As 2025 drew to a close, Janelle hinted at stepping away from the cameras that had defined 2 decades of her life, reflecting on how reality TV had shaped perceptions of her while the real growth happened off-screen. Yet the most profound closure came in early January 2026. Inspired by Mary's earlier decision, Janelle sought a spiritual release, a formal dissolution of her marriage in the eyes of the Apostolic United Brethren, their former church. In a meeting with church leaders, she received the document swiftly, holding it up with quiet triumph. "I am free. I am free. I am free." Walking away, she felt an unexpected shift, a weight lifting, an energy realigning. Though the conversation had been heartbreaking, acknowledging a 29-year union that ended far from her original intentions, Janelle harbored no regrets. The family they built, the 6 children she cherished, and the lessons learned were worth it all. "I love the family that we have," she reflected, and I would do it all again to get the kids we have. This release marked the final severing of ties, freeing her spiritually and emotionally to embrace her independent future. By January 2026, Janelle stood empowered, surrounded by grandchildren, progressing on her forever home and deepening bonds with Christine and Mary as true friends. No longer bound by the past, she declared herself free, ready for adventures, growth, and the quiet fulfillment of a life built entirely on her own terms. Mary Brown, the first wife who had walked beside Kody since their marriage in 1990, carried the longest history of any in the family. For decades, she had been the steadfast pioneer, the one who embraced plural marriage with youthful conviction, welcoming Janelle, then Christine, and finally Robyn into the fold. Yet over time, her place within the dynamic shrank. A catfishing scandal in 2015 exposed her loneliness and vulnerability, widening an emotional chasm with Kody that never fully closed. Robyn's arrival and Kody's legal divorce from Mary to marry Robyn only deepened the wound, leaving Mary spiritually married but practically alone. After years of hoping for reconciliation, Mary reached her own quiet turning point. In January 2023, she and Kody announced the termination of their marriage, a decision that felt both devastating and inevitable. For the first time in over 3 decades, Mary stood entirely on her own. She poured her energy into Lizzie's heritage in the historic bed and breakfast in Parowan, Utah, that she had purchased years earlier in memory of her grandmother. Renovations, guest experiences, and the daily rhythm of running the inn became her anchor, a tangible legacy she controlled completely. Dating entered her life briefly in 2024 when she introduced Amos, a man who seemed kind and attentive. Though the relationship ended after a few months, it marked a hopeful step, proof that Mary could open her heart again, even if cautiously. By late 2025, she chose solitude over settling, content in her own company, and the closeness of friends and family. In early 2026, Mary stood beside Janelle during her spiritual release ceremony, offering quiet support as her longtime sister-wife claimed full freedom. The moment underscored their transformed bond, no longer defined by competition or shared obligation, but by genuine friendship and mutual respect. Mary had long carried the weight of being the first, yet now she carried only herself, lighter than she had been in years. At 55, Mary radiated a calm, hard-won strength. She spoke openly of self-worth, of no longer accepting crumbs when she deserved the full table. Surrounded by the antique charm of her inn, close to her only child Leon and their partner Audrey, Mary embraced a life shaped entirely by her own choices. The plural empire she had helped build was gone, but in its place stood a woman quietly rebuilt, resilient, independent, and finally at peace with the space she occupied in the world. By the winter of 2025 to 2026, Kody Brown found himself in unfamiliar territory, a marriage of one. With Mary, Janelle, and Christine gone, only Robyn remained by his side, and even that relationship carried the strain of years of upheaval. The cameras of Sister Wives Season 20 captured a man attempting to confront the wreckage he had helped create. What the network dubbed Kody's apology tour unfolded across several raw, often uncomfortable episodes. Meetings with each of his former wives where he sought to express remorse for the anger, bitterness, and emotional withdrawal that had marked the final years of their plural family. He sat with Christine first, acknowledging how his neglect had diminished her and how poorly he had handled her departure. With Janelle, he admitted to letting frustration and rigid rules overshadow their once practical partnership. To Mary, he offered regret for the distance that had grown between them long before the legal divorce, and for failing to fight harder to keep her close. Finally, in a tearful moment with Robyn, Kody apologized to the wife who had stayed, recognizing that his defensiveness and grief had sometimes made him emotionally unsafe even for her. The sincerity of these apologies divided viewers. Some saw a man genuinely humbled, wrestling with the realization that his vision of plural marriage had failed not because of the principle itself, but because of his own shortcomings in living it. Others viewed the tour as performative, too late, too scripted, an attempt to salvage a public image as the show's ratings dwindled and the family's story neared its natural end. Off camera, Kody spoke more candidly about his reflections. He admitted that he had lost sight of the individual hearts he was meant to cherish, allowing favoritism and control to erode trust. Polygamy, he now conceded, had demanded more emotional maturity and fairness than he had been able to offer. The man who once confidently proclaimed himself the patriarch of a thriving plural empire now described himself as someone learning, slowly and painfully, how to be a better husband to the one wife he had left. Yet reconciliation remained elusive. While the apologies opened small doors to civility, deeper healing with his children proved harder. Many of the adult kids kept their distance, carrying wounds from years of feeling secondary. Kody expressed a quiet hope to rebuild those bridges, but he no longer spoke with the certainty of old. For the first time in decades, he faced a future without the noise and chaos of a sprawling family under one banner, only the quieter, more uncertain task of living with the consequences of choices made long ago. By the dawn of January 2026, the Brown family as the world once knew it had ceased to exist. What began 16 years earlier as a bold experiment in plural marriage, one husband, for wives, 18 children, and a shared vision of eternal togetherness, had quietly dissolved into separate, quieter lives scattered across states and sensibilities. Christine, now Christine Brown-Woolley, lived in Utah with David, their home filled with the easy rhythm of monogamous partnership. She celebrated anniversaries, traveled freely, and spoke openly of a love that felt effortless after decades of striving. Her memoir had found its place on shelves, offering others the courage she had claimed for herself. In North Carolina, Janelle tended the soil of Tata Farms, watching flowers bloom where Kody past dreams had withered. With her spiritual release secured, she built a porch-wrapped home beside her daughter and grandchildren, embracing a future shaped solely by her own steady hands. Freedom, for her, tasted like pine-scented air and the laughter of family gathered without obligation. Mary remained in Parowan, the gentle creak of floorboards at Lizzie's heritage in marking the days. Surrounded by heirlooms and the company of guests who came and went, she had carved out a sanctuary of her own design. No longer the first wife waiting for attention, she was simply Mary, whole, content, and answerable only to herself. Kody and Robyn, the last remaining pair, lived in Flagstaff amid the echoes of a much larger household. The Coyote Pass money had been divided and spent or saved. The cameras still rolled occasionally, but the story felt thinner now, centered on reflection rather than expansion. Kody spoke of lessons learned, of bridges he hoped one day to mend with his estranged children. Robyn, ever loyal, stood beside him, yet even their marriage bore the quiet scars of everything lost. Isolation had settled around them like Arizona dust, undeniable, but no longer suffocating. Many of the 18 children, now adults charting their own courses, kept careful distance from the past. Some maintained gentle ties, others none at all. The tragedy of Garrison's death lingered as a shared sorrow no apology could fully heal, a reminder that some fractures run too deep for time alone to mend. What had once been heralded as America's ideal polygamous family had splintered into individual truths. Yet from the collapse rose unexpected grace. 3 women who discovered strength they had not known they possessed, a man humbled by the limits of his own vision, and a generation of children free to define family on their own terms. The empire was gone, but in its place stood lives rebuilt, smaller, perhaps, but truer. Sometimes, the most profound wholeness is found not in holding everything together, but in having the courage to let it fall apart.